Okie dokie, I think we'll get started. It's 5 past now. So thanks everyone for joining and welcome to this live Q&A panel about applying to Oxbridge from the West Midlands. To put this into context, this is part of a partnership that's between InsideUni and Solihull Careers Hub. Thanks so much to Solihull for partnering with us on this. InsideUni is a student-run access initiative. We're basically trying to share the information that we wish we'd had when we were making our application to Oxbridge. We crowdsource all of our information from current students and share it for free on our website. This Q&A is just an opportunity for you to ask questions about Oxbridge, making applications, life at uni, anything like that, and to hear from current students about their experiences, particularly students who are from the West Midlands. Just to briefly go over the agenda, we'll just start with some introductions and our individual experiences of uni, and then we'll answer your questions and some questions that we also have pre-prepared from some work that we've done in schools in Solihull recently. If you want to ask a question, you can just ask it in the live comments on YouTube, and our lovely moderator, Natalie, will let us know that question and we'll get down to answering it. Okay, so I will let you all introduce yourselves. Charlotte, would you like to start?
Hiya, my name's Charlotte. I'm at Jesus College in Oxford. I study history. I've just finished my first year and I'm from Wolverhampton.
I'm Jack. I'm from Bursaries in Dudley. I am studying engineering. I've just finished my second year and I'm at Somerville College in Oxford.
Hi, my name's Massum. I'm a third year chemist at Teddy Hall, and I'm from near Wolverhampton, near Birmingham.
Hi, my name's Simran. I'm a second year at St Hilda's College in Oxford, and I'm from Wolverhampton.
Amazing, thanks so much, guys. I thought it would be good to start with some of our individual experiences. So I'll let you go in the same order that you introduced yourselves, but it would be really nice to hear from you. What made you apply to Oxbridge and what was it like applying from the West Midlands?
So for me, I never thought that I'd heard of Oxford, Cambridge, but the actual idea of coming here was just so far removed from anything that I thought would actually happen that I just didn't think it would. There was a woman from Sydney Sussex College in Cambridge, and she came to our school and she gave us these brochures about the college, and I used to look at them and think, oh my gosh, this looks so different to home. It looks like Hogwarts. It looks amazing. And since then, that was when I was in year 10, and I just thought, well, let's try and make it not even a reality. Let's just even give it a go. I think just having a vision in your head of what you would like it to be, and what you would like to aspire to, that's what will keep driving you, and that's what motivated me through my GCSEs and A-levels when it got really hard. And in the back, you've got to be realistic and be like, well, it's not the end of the world. It's a dream, but if it and you will be able to do it if you try. So that was my experience.
So I first heard about Oxford. Obviously, I was aware of it as a kid and stuff. And the first that anything to do academically with myself to do with it, there was a year 9 school trip that they did for gifted and talented students that went to St Edmund's Hall, Teddy Hall in Oxford. So yeah, that was a pretty surreal trip because it was just so far removed from anything I'd ever seen before. So at that point, because I was quite young, I didn't really, think about potentially going there. It was just, it was just a trip, and it was nice to go there. And then in sixth form, there was a woman who came and talked about Oxbridge applications and Oxbridge personal statements and the best way to apply for it. So I suppose at that point was the point where I was thinking of applying, and it became something that could potentially happen. And also for my subject, engineering, it was like in the league tables quite good for engineering. Both Oxford and Cambridge are some of the best unis for engineering in the UK. So yeah, I suppose I just aspired. I just thought I'd have a go, apply, see what happens, and luckily, I got a place there. But like Charlotte said, it really isn't the end of the world not getting in, and it really depends a lot on your course. Like there's aspects of my degree that are different to other unis that you might get a different experience with. So yeah.
Yeah, so basically, I originally wasn't going to apply, but I applied because my mom told me to. Because basically, I don't back myself, and I was like, I'll just go to like Imperial or University of Birmingham or something. And like considering I do chemistry as well, I was like looking at the tables and like how much applicants and stuff apply, and I was just like, considering my background, I just like won't get in. It's just a waste of my 5 options. I'll just go to whatever uni. But my mom was like you only get this chance once, just like apply, and if you don't get in, you don't get in, but it's worth a try. And I was like, my mom kind of wore me down. I was like, just to like shut her up, I was like, I'll just apply, whatever happens. But also on the side note, I also did like some study days at Oxford, because I was like, I might as well try it out and see what I'm getting myself into. So in year 12, I did some study days for biochemistry and biomed at Oriel, which is definitely like not what I wanted to do, but I was just like, why not? The option's there. And I did it, and I was like, actually, there's a lot more there to it than I actually thought. And like there was like a lot of people that I met that were like really cool and stuff. And I'll talk about study days later on. But that kind of also like persuaded me into applying. So yeah, just a combination of my mom and just the study days.
So I think for me, similar to Charlotte, I didn't really consider Oxbridge to be an option before any outreach work. So in year 10, I actually had some people come in from Oriel in Oxford, and they did like a presentation on the different outreach schemes they have and applications, and they sort of broke down all of these like myths that we believed. So for myself, I believed that you kind of had to pay more to get into more Oxford and Cambridge, and it was really hard to get in. Well, it is hard to get in, but I had this like idea in my head, it was borderline impossible, which isn't true. And then from then on, it kind of just became like a dream that I just thought about a bit. And then I applied in 6th form, and I think I was one of 10 applicants, and I was the only one who got in. And yeah.
Amazing. Thanks so much for your insights there. I found that really interesting, and it really resonates with me as well. I think the next thing that would be nice to know, and would be interesting to know about, is kind of what is a typical day in your life like at Oxford? What do you kind of get up to on the daily?
Yeah. So for me, I study engineering, and I think the schedule that I do in a week is pretty similar to a lot of STEM students. Like I think it'd be similar to chemistry, similar to physics. So it is a bit changeable for me because I'm a second year. So my first year, it was 2020 to 2021. So it was all online learning for the first year. And then the last year just gone, it's gradually started to become more in person and more practical. But generally speaking, you'll have lectures Monday to Friday. For me, it's 8 a week. So it'd be 2 on Monday morning, 2 on Tuesday morning, a break on Wednesday, 2 on Thursday morning, and 2 on Friday morning, each an hour. So that's 8 hours of lectures a week. And then you'll generally have a lab each week, maybe 3 in every month. So you'll have like a week off every 4 weeks. And you'll have problem sheets that are, so you'll have 2 of those a week. So 4 of the lectures in 1 week will what's the word? Will be on the one problem sheet, and the other 4 lectures will be about the other problem sheet. So each week you'll learn 2 topics, and then at the end of the week you'll do 2 problem sheets about the topics, which you'll hand in for the next week. And then you'll go over the problem sheets with your tutors in college. So that's one thing about Oxford and Cambridge that I think is quite unique. There's a different name from at Cambridge. I think they're called supervisions or something, but at Oxford they're called tutorials. So 2 times a week you'll sit down with your tutors and you'll spend an hour going over the problem sheet. You can ask questions about anything that you didn't understand. It's usually pretty efficient. Like if there's things that you're finding easy, like they won't make you go over it. You'll just focus on the things that you need to improve your understanding on. And yeah, generally that is the week in terms of academics. Lectures, probably a lab each week, which is for me 9 to 5 with an hour's break in the middle. So it is an all-day thing. That's pretty much it in terms of academics.
So I do biomed, and again, like Jack, so there's a lot of lectures that happen Monday to Friday. And with biomed, it's sort of a progression of each year you have less and less lectures and you have more independent reading of like scientific papers and stuff. And I think at Oxford, a big thing is that your schedule is sort of ruled by your tutorials. So tutorials have a higher priority than lectures and anything else. And you spend most of your time preparing for them, at least in biomed you do. And in biomed, typically a tutorial involves sitting down with a tutor and you write an essay for it. Or sometimes you might be asked to do a presentation, or you might have to write an essay plan sometimes. As for the amount of lectures, it varies term by term and year by year. But last year, I think overall, there was something like over 100 lectures. And then this year I had under half that. So yeah.
That's really interesting because I did a humanities social science degree. I've just finished my degree in geography, and there's much less contact hours than there is for science. I know I used to have like 8 lectures a week during the term, and then that was in first year, and when I got to the second and third year it was more like 2 or 3 really. So I spent a lot of time independently. I know it can be far more like contact hours for STEM, right? Cool. Okie dokie. Thanks so much for that, guys. That was really, really insightful. We've had a question come in on the live chat asking kind of what the basic requirements are to apply to Oxford and Cambridge, and how soon you should start thinking about applying if you're in kind of year 10.
So I can give some insight on that. So GCSEs are obviously, I'd say for like starting from year 10, because that's when you start your GCSEs or you've chosen your options and then you start studying them. Obviously work hard for your GCSEs, but they really aren't the end of the world. Your A-levels are far more important, and when choosing A-levels as well, just literally pick the subjects that you enjoy most, because they're the ones that you are going to be best at and the ones that you will hopefully get the best grades in. Speaking from personal experience as well, I moved school for sixth form, but I got like a couple of 6s in my GCSEs. And when I moved to sixth form, my teachers actually told me that there was no point me applying to Oxford because my GCSEs weren't good enough. I obviously didn't have any like predicted A-levels or anything at the time, but being told that when I was like 16, having moved to a new sixth form, it was just like, well, I'll show you. So don't, if you get your results and like they're not straight 9s, don't think that is the door shut for Oxford or Cambridge, because it really isn't. Because the most important thing is that, yes, you've got a solid like score for your GCSEs. They don't need to be 8s and 9s. They don't need to be 7, 8s and 9s. There can be a fluctuation in the grades. I had done well in my essay subjects because I now study history. Essays was my thing. The essay-based subjects were my thing. The sciences and maths were definitely not my thing. So I didn't do as well in them. So it really, there can be a lot of variation and you still are completely fine. The biggest then take away from that is that outside of the subject or subjects that you like to study, you maybe start reading a book, or not even that, you can watch a documentary, you can listen to a podcast, you can watch a film. In my personal statement, I referenced a film and a podcast that I thought about, or that it was something relevant to the point I was trying to make about why I wanted to study history in an area of history that I was interested in. So it can be something really that's like not taxing at all. Watch a film, watch a documentary. If you're interested in languages, that's pretty easy. Like you can watch films. So anything around that. But even from year 10, you don't necessarily need to you can start thinking about it, but you don't even really need to do anything about it. Perhaps year 11 summer, when you've got like an extended period of time off. I know GCSEs are either ending today, tomorrow, sometime this week, next week. So you've got such a long time. So you could start having to think about that then. But biggest takeaway, GCSEs are not everything. They are not the only thing.
Thanks, Charlotte. And I think it's important to look at the specific entrance requirements for the course that you're interested in. I know that the grade requirements can differ slightly according to the course. I know at Oxford, for some humanities subjects it's like 3 A's, but for some science subjects it's like two A stars and an A level. And also for some courses, well, lots of courses at Oxford and Cambridge, you need to sit admissions exams as well. I didn't sit an admissions exam. Did anyone sit one? They'd be happy to talk about. Massim, yeah.
So basically, I took the TSA exam. So there's 2 parts to it. There's like a multiple choice part and then an essay part. Because I do a STEM subject, I didn't need to do the essay part. I only needed to do the section A, which is a multiple choice thing. And it was like, you have an hour to answer 50 questions. It's a very time pressured exam. And like, there's no wrong answer. There's more of a correct answer compared to like the rest of the answers. But I didn't really prepare for it. And for chemistry, they don't really look at the TSA that much. They only look at the results to see if you're like, if you get like a decent result. So in terms of my results on the normal distribution, I got completely like bang average, and literally like it was all right in the end. They just want to see if you're like competent enough to be able to answer like multiple choice questions. So it's not the be all or end all. Well, at least for chemistry, that is.
On the opposite side as well, because like I said, I do history. Mine's called the HAT, the History Aptitude Test, and in a similar way to chemistry or the STEM subjects as well, you actually get penalised in the HAT for if you get a source and you basically have an hour to comment on the source based on the question that you've been asked. And you actually get penalised for if you knew anything about that subject, about what the source is. You can't bring in like factual information, because obviously some people will know about that topic, some people won't. It's just about how you write your essay style. And it's kind of like a comprehension, like you do like when you were in like primary school or like year 7, 8. So it's more about your like how you interpret things, how you would like join things together, rather than how many facts you know. That's the main thing.
For engineering, I did the PAT, which is the Physics Aptitude Test. And luckily, my sixth form sent me something which was a course called Preparing for the PAT, which I think it cost about 20 quid. It wasn't too much. And it involved 2 visits to Oxford where there were workshops on preparing for the aptitude test. And there was 3 lots of like worksheets which were for you to take away over the summer. So I did it in the summer of 2019, which would have been the year before I went to uni. So the summer between first and second years of sixth form. So I don't know whether schools in sixth forms are going to be as on it as mine was, because it was really helpful. But definitely look out for prep courses like that if you can find them, because mine ended up being really helpful, and I think scraped me through the PAT, luckily. I was going to make a little point about preparing just generally for Oxford as well. Charlotte was talking about like super curricular activities, they're called, where you do things outside of normal academics at sixth form to do with your degree. So a woman came in from Oriel College to my sixth form before I went to uni and was talking about the admissions process and personal statements. And generally speaking, at Oxbridge, when it comes to writing things on your personal statement, they prefer for you to talk about these things called supercurricular activities, where they're not so much bothered with sports and stuff like that you do outside of your degree that isn't relevant to it isn't relevant to the degree that you're applying for. They like you to talk about things generally that do have some kind of relevance towards the degree that you're applying for. So, like it could be a book. Like I bought this book, which I read half of, and then talked about in my personal statement, which is a classic. But even like Charlotte said, it could be like a podcast. It could be a YouTube video that you've watched that you found interesting. Like it doesn't have to be a big time or money investment, really. It's just anything that shows interest in your degree that you want to apply for that you can talk about in your personal statement and that could potentially be brought up in an interview that you'd be happy to talk about. Anything like that would be really good to do. And as well, it might give you a better idea of what you want to apply for if you're stuck between similar courses. So yeah.
Great. Thanks so much, guys. That was really insightful and there was so much detail in that. I think also it's really important to note that loads of those resources can be found for free. I know there are lots of like admissions test courses that you pay a little bit of money for, but there's loads and loads of support online for free as well. Oxford and Cambridge both share all of their past papers for free. And on the InsideUni website, there's a guide for every admissions test for Oxford and Cambridge, and that's all free as well. So don't feel any pressure to pay any money. And if you want to find books, podcasts, you can always find those free at the library, your local library, and online as well. Perfect. Okay. So I wanted to ask specifically about the West Midlands, really, because I'm not from the West Midlands, I'm from Liverpool. Are there any kind of stereotypes or misconceptions or worries that you had about coming from the West Midlands and going to Oxbridge, and how did you or do you deal with these?
Right. Okay. So, like Birmingham, for example, is like the second biggest city in the UK, and I thought there'd be more representation from Brum, for example. But when I got here, I realized very quickly that there's literally no one from Brum here, or like at least in my college, that is. Like from my year alone, I could like count on the top of my on my hand like the number of like Brummy people there are. So I thought that'd be like a bit of like it'd be a bit of like a bit hard to like settle in with people because you know there's not many people to like share my experiences with. But I've on the whole actually found it okay because it's nice to meet people with like different experiences, different backgrounds, and just like interact with those sort of people. I also like thought there'd be like an issue with like fitting in and stuff because once I came here I realized there's a lot of Londoners and like I don't know, like for example, like I get like teased for being from Brum. Like we get like us Brummy people, we get like teased for the Brummy accent a lot. Apparently it's the worst accent, but I disagree. But like it's just a bit of banter. You just gotta own it. But also if you do feel like you don't fit in, there's also like societies to help with that. So I'm part of the Midlanders Society, so I'm actually treasurer. So and that's like a society for like other Midlanders people to like get along and like do socials together and to like meet more Midlands people. So that's like a good way to like meet more people as well. I also was like kind of concerned of like the educational backgrounds because for context, I used to go to a really bad sports college for like my entire secondary and sixth form life, and I was I learned pretty much nothing there. But when you get here, you realize like they're actually a lot more accommodating than you think. They do like programs before you even start uni to like help you settle in. So I did this thing called the MPLS Bridging Program, which stands for Mathematical, Physical, and Life Sciences Bridging Program, and it's for like people who do chemistry, earth sciences, physics, whatever, to like bridge the gap between people who've like been like sort of from my background to like people who've got like the fancy like grammar school, state school kind of vibe going on. And also like during your like first few weeks of your degree as well, they also make sure like you like for example with like labs and stuff, a lot of people haven't like dealt with the equipment and stuff before, so they also like spend a lot of time trying to teach you stuff to like get you up to scratch like how other people, so it helps you with like getting a level playing field.
Yeah, so for myself, it was kind of similar. So I didn't really know what to expect, and I didn't really know anyone going to Oxford or Cambridge either. So it's like you kind of had no guidance going to this, and you kind of almost blind into this process. And when I got here, I kind of noticed that it was very, like you said, like very London centric, and they almost form like a clique. And it's a bit hard to break in sometimes because you don't really relate to what they relate to. But overall, I think most of the time, most people are friendly, and this does vary college to college, but most people here are friendly, I found, and you can talk, you can be quite open, and it's quite an accepting environment generally. And if not, there are obviously societies. So yeah, and a lot of my friends, I've noticed that you tend to form your own community almost of people like yourself. So a lot of my friends are from the Midlands or the North, and a lot of my friends are also coloured, and it's just a nice environment to be in. I think I also had a lot of misconceptions whilst coming here. So I almost had this idea that everyone here would be quite posh and would be from like an extremely rich background, and they have a completely different upbringing to the one that I did. And whilst I still think that most people here are richer than I am, I have found that not everyone is super duper rich. And also like the ratio of state school to private school is always changing, and it's always increasing for state school, I found. And I think now it's 65% roughly state school to 35 private, which is still bad proportionally to the UK, but it's a lot better than what it used to be, and it shows that things here are changing for the better. I think also people tend to have this image of Oxford having all of these like traditions that are like quite like exclusive and quite like hard to integrate into, but honestly when you're here it's quite like it's just a normal part of life here, to be honest.
Amazing. Thanks so much, guys. And it's nice to hear that you've all built your own communities. I think it's always lovely to hear that, especially when we come from the Midlands or the North. I can relate. We've had a question come in about societies and clubs that we're part of at university, how we spend our free time. So yeah, what kind of extracurricular activities do you do alongside your degree?
Yeah, so basically there's like different types of extracurriculars. So you can have like uni-wide extracurriculars, or you can have college-wide. So I'm part of a lot of college sports. So for example, I do football. I actually play netball, which is a very surprising one. But also like uni-wide, I also do like korfball, which is like I've never played korfball before. It's very similar to netball, but yeah, the good thing about uni is like you can try random sports or like random societies that you just would never have thought of. So for example, I'm terrible at dancing, but I'm part of like the Bhangra Society, and I also do salsa sometimes, and like it doesn't mean I'm good at any of these things. It just means like it's like a good way of like meeting new people and like learning a new skill as well. Like I like to think that I've improved in my Bhangra skills, but like I'm still terrible, but heyo. But there's also like different other types of societies as well. So I'm also part of like, so I'm Bengali, so I'm part of like the Bengali society. And like even though I'm not French, I'm also part of the French society and then like Indian society, because why not? Like literally everyone's so accommodating. Like you can join whatever and like meet so many cool people. So I recommend just like joining as much things as possible, even though if you think like it might not be for you, just try something new. You never know.
Amazing. Thanks, Massim. That's really cool. I wish I'd gotten involved in more stuff. I definitely haven't, but I suppose COVID has kind of wiped out a year for me. Great. So it'd be interesting to know. I think one big part of the application process is kind of figuring out what subject you want to study. So how did you choose the subject that you wanted to study?
Well, the process of picking engineering for me went like this. So I'm pretty good at maths, I'm pretty good at physics, and engineering is pretty much maths and physics. But I think the lesson to take away in terms of picking a course, I think Charlotte said it earlier, like you want to pick something that you'll enjoy, and hopefully that'll also correlate to something that you're good at. So obviously, apart from maths and physics, I suppose I have always liked the idea of engineering. I wanted to be an architect as a kid. I used to play a lot of Minecraft, so I like making buildings and stuff. But I suppose I've always liked learning about how things work and how things are put together. So yeah, engineering is a lot of that. Yeah, it's quite hard because I suppose it's down to the individual. But I think anything that you enjoy and you feel like you can do well in is probably the best shape.
So I do biomed, and the way I got there was I was very like interest oriented. So I just wasn't really thinking about which degree is harder, which degree is easier. I was just kind of thinking about what I'd really like to study. And for context, I did maths, biology, and chemistry at A level, so very like STEM dominated. So I kind of looked around for like biology, medicine, biochemistry, but eventually I just found that I would just like to do what they do in biomed, but I didn't really want to do medicine because really didn't like the clinical aspect of stuff. I didn't want to be a doctor. I didn't want any of that. And also one thing that is just some general advice is that your degree doesn't need to rule what profession you enter into. So like, for example, I'm doing biomed, but I'm going into commercial law. So you don't need to stress about that yet.
Amazing. Thanks, guys. We've had a little question in the chat about whether there are any orientations or tours given to new students. I suppose it's a good opportunity to talk about Freshers Week. So does someone want to talk about Freshers Week?
Yeah, so I remember Freshers Week. The Freshers Week was a very hectic time, I'm not gonna lie. Because like a lot of things were going on, but like there were some very important things that happened during Freshers Week. So for example, consent workshops, a lot of that's very important, and that needed to be done, so that happened. And like during Freshers Week, we'd also like have like icebreakers where you'd meet new people, you'd meet like people on your floor as well, and like other people around college. There's like loads of events and stuff that go on. So if you're into like drinking, there'd be a lot of clubbing. There was literally clubbing on every week. I went literally every day. I mean, every day of the week. I literally went clubbing the whole time. There's also like events as well for like people that don't drink. So there were like board games, stuff. So there's like, it's a very accommodating week as well. In terms of like orientations and stuff, there would be like tours around college. So they'd show you around like all the different libraries, or like where you have to go eat, where you can find like your subject's books in the library, like how to like take out books from the library, all those things that you think are quite like trivial, but it's kind of stressful when you like don't know what you're doing. But yeah, they'd also like do like the whole like stuff for like societies as well. So like I mentioned earlier stuff about like college societies. So like there'd be like a freshers fair sort of thing where like different societies would talk about their different like sports or whatever. So there'd be like netball, for example. But yeah, there'd also be like Oxford does this weird thing where we have like college families. So we'd have like college family dinners. So you meet your college parents, and then you go to their house with your college siblings, and then you like meet them, and it's like a great way to like they help you with your course if you ever need help. They're like a good segue to like help you with like uni life in general, like your subject or whatever. Yeah.
Great, that's really insightful. Yeah, Freshers Week is such a blur. But yeah, there's plenty of tours and orientations on, so everyone kind of gets to grips with the environment. And Oxford and Cambridge are very small places, so it's tricky to get lost. Fab. So I wondered. I know that you need to leave soon, Hassamran. So I was hoping. I know that you wanted to reflect a little bit on financial support and the kind of scholarships and bursaries that are on offer to students to help them get through their degree.
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier that one of the biggest like barriers that I thought was me getting to Oxbridge was the financial support. So prior to like any outreach work, I thought you had to pay more to get in, you had more tuition fees, or like the city is like unbearably expensive to live in. But when we had that outreach talk, they talked us through scholarships and bursaries. So for example, I'm on something called the Crankstart Bursary, which is a bursary set up by someone who like graduated from Oxford a couple of years ago, and it gives financial support to those who need it. So if your household income is below 27,000, then you get given a bursary dependent on your household income. So for context, that gives me around about £5,000 a year that I don't have to pay back. And then also I get a bursary from college for, I think that's around about £1,750. So I think if you really need financial support, you are very well supported, and that's on top of your maintenance loan that you'll get from SFE. So money is really not a barrier here. And there's also scholarships, but those are more so given on a talent basis. So like if you, like for example, do really well in a subject, or like music scholarships are a thing, I know. But yeah.
Yeah, I think it's worth looking into what your college offers, or a college that you're thinking of applying to offers. I know that specifically for the West Midlands, Oriel College in Oxford is one of the linked colleges, and they offer discretionary bursaries based on financial needs, but especially to students from the Midlands. And I know that OCR, the exam board, offers some bursaries every year to students who are attending Cambridge in their first year. So it's just worth having a poke around and seeing what's out there. Both of the universities absolutely want you to come, and they don't want money to be a barrier. So there's always funding there to help you. I don't know if you wanted to head off now, Simran.
Yeah, I will. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks so much. Okay, let's carry on. There's a question that I think is really important, just as a broad overview of the application process, which is, what was the best piece of advice that you were given while you were applying? Or if you were to give someone advice now, what's the advice you would give them?
Yeah, so it sounds so general, and it's probably sounds like such a cliche, but like, just accept it. We've all talked about the fact that we've got regional accents. It is very heavily dominated by London, southern accents or southern people. So just accepting the fact that you are from a region that perhaps hasn't got that many people into Oxbridge before, and the fact that you deserve to be here as much as anybody else, being kind of like, it sounds a bit, just being so single-minded in that sense, that you, in a positive way, that you can do it, and it doesn't matter where you're from. That you are good enough and that you deserve to be here. But in a more practical sense, perhaps, that's like just the foundation. There's obviously quite a lot of steps to getting into Oxford. It feels like a longer, more drawn out process than it is to apply to any other uni. So as the personal statement is like the first step of that, because I do an essay subject, but that's not specific to my one either. Having read books, listened to podcasts, watched any documentaries or films or anything like that, not just listing everything that you've done, or like just a 20-page, like 20 things that you've done, and just saying, oh, I like my subject, here we go, I've done all these things. It's more about being like selective, so less is more in that sense. So I wrote about 3 books that I'd read, 1 podcast and 1 film, and it's more about reflecting on your opinions. Because you're going to be so much more independent than you are being at school, being just taught the A-level syllabus or the GCSE syllabus. It's more about what you think. They're like valuing your opinion. So what do you think on a book that you've read? Do you agree with what that author has said? Do you agree with the podcast that you listened to? Or was there a question in a documentary or a film that you watched that you would like to learn more about? Again, they're not, these people, yes, they're academics, and it's odd, you realise the higher you get in education, or in anything really, the less you actually know. At school, you're said, right, okay, I've got to learn all these facts for my exam, and then hopefully I'll do well, and I know everything about that topic. As you progress in education, if that is what you choose to do, you realise that even these professors at top universities like Oxford and Cambridge, there is a lot that they don't know, especially in the sciences as well. I would imagine that's far more. So they don't expect you to know everything. They want you to ask questions. They want you to sound inquisitive. So in my personal statement, I literally asked a question, like, even though it's a written application, I wrote a question that I would like to find out perhaps. And in the interview, getting to that stage as well, I asked questions because they want to see that you're engaged with your subject. So definitely, you've got to show, don't tell. Don't list 20 books. That's telling them. You've got to demonstrate that. So show you've read 3 or 4 books, write something that you actually think. It doesn't even have to be clever. Like, don't necessarily think you have to be like reinvent something or make a new term, or you're not being asked to discover something new from your bedroom. They just want to see that you have opinions, basically. Be opinionated. That's my key.
Amazing. I think that's really useful advice, Charlotte. I think it's something that can be taken on board and used. So thanks so much. We've had a question come into the chat about how you can decide which college to apply for and how important picking a college is, or the college pick that you make is.
Right. So the choice of colleges is as important as you want to make it. Like, for example, for me, I chose an open application because I didn't really care what college I wanted to get into. I just would have liked to get in. I didn't mind where I got put. But if you're looking for certain criteria, for example, if sports is a huge thing for you, then, like, for example, Teddy Hall is a good college for you. Or if you're like, or like certain colleges have like certain political beliefs, for example, like Orioles known for like certain political beliefs, you can like go to that, or like other different colleges as well. Or like, depending on like what region you're from, they have different links to different colleges as well. So for example, West Midlands is affiliated a lot with Oriole, or like Wales is affiliated with Jesus a lot. So you know, a lot of like Welsh people end up at Jesus. So like it's like a lot of factors, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Like, for example, my college wife chose Balliol, not Balliol, well, one of the colleges based on the fact that you look pretty. Like, you could choose colleges based on something as trivial as that. It really doesn't matter. And also, like, the way they take students up per subject is like each college has like a set number of people they can admit per subject, and if you don't get in for whatever college you've chosen, then you'll just end up getting pulled to another college and you do another interview for that. So for example, I know people that applied to Exeter, did interviews at Exeter, and then ended up getting pulled to Teddy Hall, and then ended up getting into Teddy Hall. So at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. You can make it as big as you want to make it.
Yeah, I know some people have chosen their college based on how close it is to their department. I know one girl who chose her college entirely because she got told the food was really good there. Yeah, people make the decision based on a lot of things. And I think I've just finished my degree, and I think the realization I've come to is that once you get to your college, everyone thinks that their college is the best, regardless, and everyone loves their college. So it is as important as you make it. If there's particular things that you want or you need, then definitely look into it, but don't sweat it. So speaking of being pulled in interviews, it would be good to know what your interviews were like, if you wanted to briefly reflect on that.
Yeah, so I've just finished my first year. So I was applying in 2020, 2021. So mine were online because of COVID, which I think was the first time they'd done that on like such a wide scale for everybody. So it was different. All the interviews worked differently for different subjects. So for mine, I had one interview. I did apply to Jesus. I had an interview at Jesus, and then I did get into Jesus. So that just explains that. That's why I only had one. They were very friendly, so lovely. I had two interviewers. I'd been sent their names before, so I just had a quick Google search, being nosy, and just had a look at what they did. It was quite interesting, but nothing related to what I'd written in my personal statement or anything I was interested in. But that wasn't an issue. They're not asking you on what they know. They want to see what you know. I was asked about my written work. That's maybe something we haven't talked about. For some of the essay subjects, not all, you are asked to submit a written piece. So that is literally just an essay that you've written in your like A-level work that's been marked by your teacher. So that's really nothing to stress about. it's just one essay that you've done. So I was asked, it was a half an hour interview, that was all. 15 minutes were asked, questions were asked on my written work, and those were okay. And then the other half of it was an unseen source. So that can be the daunting bit. So I was literally sat like on my laptop in my bedroom, and it was half an A4 page of writing, and they said, like, start reading it. Read it for 5 minutes. The first question they asked was, what did you find interesting? Like, that is such a broad question. I don't know, what did I find interesting? So say something. It can be such a general comment, but they will then ask more specific leading questions and try to push you as far as you can go. And that's like what they do in the tutorial. So it's to replicate how a tutorial would work. And that's what I meant earlier by asking questions. They want to see if you are someone that they want to teach and that would be engaged in the subject. Again, it's showing, not telling, your like passion for the subject. So my source was on Charlemagne. I knew nothing about Charlemagne. I'd heard the name vaguely, but I am not remotely interested in ancient history at all. And so I was making things up because I didn't know what they were on about, but I was trying to show that I was interested in looking at patterns and thinking about historical things, having historical imagination. So it's more about how you're approaching something than how many facts you know. Don't think that just because you're applying for physics that you've got to know every single equation that has ever existed, because they don't need to know that. They don't want to know that. They don't want you to know that. That's not what they're looking for. It's just how you think, how you would approach things, and how amenable you would be to the like tutorial system that we have at Oxford and Cambridge.
So my interview experience was pretty similar to Charlotte's, except mine were in person. So I applied the year before. My interviews were in December of 2019, which was nice because it was Christmassy and it was in Oxford. So there was a nice Christmas market up. So I applied to Somerville and eventually got into Somerville. So I spent one night in college staying in a room, which was a nice experience. And then the day after I came, I had an interview at Somerville in the morning and then got pulled for an interview at Lincoln in the afternoon, which I think is pretty typical for engineering interviews. You'll generally have 2 interviews, one at the college that you've applied to and then one at a different college. So in the engineering interview, like with history, they'll get you to talk about things that you mentioned in your personal statement, things that you've done related to your degree, and get you to answer questions and express your opinion on things. But instead of looking at a source, you do a few questions. So like there's one maths question normally, which could be analysing a graph. For me, there was a question about finding the area of a shape using integration. And then there was another one that was, I think I was given an expression for a line and I had to sketch what I thought it would look like on the graph by looking at various different properties that I could infer from the equation. And then there's generally a more practical question, which is a bit more fun. So in my first interview, it was what was the current that you'd have to supply to have a shower? So it is quite an open-ended question. So for that, it's just assessing your ability to problem solve. You don't have to get, anywhere. Well, I suppose they're looking for you to get a realistic answer, like something. If you were getting 40,000 amps, you'd probably say it's a bit much. But yeah, as long as you're in the right order of magnitude, it's mainly about the assumptions that you make, if they're reasonable, and your ability to problem solve. And how you approach the question is more so what they're looking at than the answer that you get. It's the way that you approach it and think about things. And then I think the second question I had in my second interview was to do with a car that was turning on a banked track. So if that's a flat road, a road that looks like that. So that was about analysing the forces on the car. So there'd be a force like that way into the centre of rotation, which would be turning it like that. And there was another force, well, another component of the force that was pointing up. So that one was a bit less involved. But yeah, I think the thing to remember about the interviews is that they're not trying to catch you out. They're not trying to work against you. They want you to do well in the interview. They'll help you out if you're struggling on certain things. Like in my first interview, the question about shapes and integration, we hadn't covered that in A-level maths at that point. So I did say, like, we haven't covered this, like we haven't been taught it. And they were really understanding. They just got me to kind of conceptualize how I would approach it and how I would do it, more so than writing it out, which was helpful. But yeah, as long as you stay calm in the interview and yeah, are able to answer the questions, they will try and help you as much as they can. They're not trying to make you slip up. They just want the best out of you.
Yeah. That's really insightful, Jack. And I agree that they're there to just see how you cope in that environment and problem solve. I got pretty much all of the questions that were like problem solving ones. Like I got the answer wrong in my interviews, and then they like helped me get to the right answer. So we kind of did the problem solving together. So that was quite nice, really. And yeah, so I think with online interviews, the universities provide all the support. So if you're doing like a STEM subject, then they'll provide you with the support to be able to kind of do the working out and show that online as well. So don't be afraid of online interviews. We're getting towards the 6 o'clock mark, guys. So I thought just to wrap up, it would be nice to hear about if you have any recommendations of resources that you would use during your application or things that you found helpful. Jack, do you want to start?
Yeah, so specifically there's on YouTube, I'm guessing it's still up, there's a video that is an example STEM interview. I think it's a Cambridge one, and that is quite physics and engineering orientated. Again, it's a problem solving question like the shower one. I think it's like a remote helicopter, and the girl in the interview is giving it to hold, and then just looking at it and making assumptions about it. You have to guess the amount of power it's consuming if it's just hovering in place. But that is a good example of she looks terrified at the start. She has no idea what to do. But obviously the interviewer gives her some pointers and helps her along the way, and then by the end she does get a reasonable answer. So that is a good, for me anyway, it was a good kind of reassurance that they're not just going to leave me high and dry. They will try and help me if I get stuck. And it is quite a supportive thing, and you're made to feel at ease, and they will help you. Go on.
Sorry. Oh, no, sorry.
I was going to say, in terms of any other resources, there is a lot on YouTube and elsewhere of example questions that you might have in interviews per subject. And yeah, if anyone can do a preparation course for the aptitude test, whether it's like online for free or whether you can get onto one of the in-person ones if they're running. I think I had to do an application for it, and it came through the sixth form. But yeah, anything like that can give you a bit of prep for any part of the interview process is good. And a quick note about the aptitude test. So I did the physics aptitude test for engineering, and I totally thought I gave up on applying to Oxford after I did the test. I thought I'd done absolutely crap in it. Like I just gave up on it. So I was like shocked to find out that I got an interview like a month later. So if at any point in the application process should you choose to apply, if you feel really deflated after the interview or after the aptitude test, like don't count yourself out, because you might have done a lot better than you thought. And the application as a whole is based on all the aspects, not just the test or the personal statement or the interview. They take it all into account. So yeah.
I'd suggest if you can't apply to any study days at any college for any subject, I'd highly recommend that. So for example, I do chemistry here, but I did study days at Oriel College for biochemistry and biomed, even though that's not what I wanted to do anyway. The whole point of study days is to like experience what Oxford teaching is like. So for example, we did a lot of like lectures on biochemistry or biomed, and we did a lot of like lab work as well, and they showed us around the different labs and stuff, and they also like introduced us to like uni life. So they took us to an Oriel formal, like stuff that I've never experienced before at the time, and I was like, wow, this is kind of cool. And the whole point of it is also to like meet new people. So it's usually people from like very similar backgrounds, and so you meet like all these people from all over the country that are like interested in this subject, or like are like very similar to you, and like to this day I still like talk to them. They're like really good, some of them are really good friends of mine. So yeah, I'd highly recommend just to like see see what uni's like through that.
And then yeah, my last one, just to add on to Jack's, Jesus, which is where I am, Jesus College, Oxford, their YouTube channel is one of the biggest access and outreach channels. They literally just search there at Jesus College. Matt Williams, who is our access officer, there are, I don't know how many videos, countless. There's hat prep, like hour-long videos. He does like how to deal with rejection, how the formals work, literally every part of college life, and that's his job, so he's still redoing videos now and re-uploading, and so definitely have a look at those ones, because again, with the hat, I didn't have any like tuition or any help from school. That 1 hour long video and the free papers that I found on Oxford's website were what I used. And again, as Jack said, like, don't count yourself out, because I thought I'd done rubbish in mine as well. They were so useful, and yeah, that hour-long video from Jesus that Matt Williams did, we love Matt Williams, he's a legend. So yeah, that's one key point. And then also InsideUni, obviously we're doing that. I'm part of the team that work to help offer the information that we do. So it's a free website. There's application guides on all subjects. There's links to different websites, the Oxford and Cambridge subject websites, advice on where you can go to look at the student room or different places. There's testimonial videos, so you can watch rather than just read a long page on your laptop or your phone. So you can actually hear our experiences for the subjects that we do at the different colleges and at either Oxford or Cambridge that we're at, just general uni life as well. So that's a resource I wish I'd have used when I was in sixth form.
Yeah, it's probably a bit.
Sorry, I have one more to add as well. It's unique. It's a summer school that you can apply to, where you'll come to a college in summer and do a residential. So I didn't do it unique myself, but I did something called Opportunity Oxford, which is for when you've got a place, and it's for people like from areas that have low university take up, and like I think there's other criteria for it as well, but it is quite similar. So you'll do a residential at one of the colleges, and you'll do a week of study, which is meant to simulate what it's like being at Oxford. So if you did the unique summer school, it'd be things that are more like at a sixth form level academically that you'll be able to do. But that was quite helpful to me, because it does kind of get you into the mindset of what the schedule will be like when you're there. Like, you'll have lectures in the morning and have to do worksheets. And I think just coming physically, if you can. Well, this is assuming that it's still running during COVID. Like, I'm sure some aspects of it have probably changed in however many years it's been since I've done a proper in-person one. But yeah, I think coming in person and experiencing it firsthand is quite helpful. And again, getting an idea for the workload and what you'll be managing your time like if you do come.
Perfect. Yeah, I would agree. And hopefully those links for Unique and the Sutton Trust as well, who also offer summer schools at Cambridge and other Russell Group unis up and down the country. So hopefully that link's gone into you. So yeah, Inside Uni, we have over 3,000 interview testimonies. We have an application guide for every subject at Oxford and Cambridge, and we have an admissions test guide. We also have our blog, videos, as Charlotte said. So I think we'll wrap up there because we're approaching 6:05. So we've been chatting for an hour, which is a long time. So I hope that this Q&A has been useful. It will be available on the YouTube channel forever. So don't worry if you've only caught the end of this or you'd like to come back anytime, that's absolutely fine. So thanks so much for coming, and please do subscribe to our YouTube channel, go to Inside Uni and use our resources if you want to. And if you want to get in touch with us with any more questions, please feel free to get in touch with us on social media or email us. All of the information we'll add into the description as soon as we can. So thanks so much. And again, thank you so much to Solihull Careers Hub for supporting us in this. It's been a lovely, lovely partnership, and we hope that it's been really useful. So that's it from us. Participants, if you just stay here until we end the live stream, just to add that on. And yeah, thanks so much, everybody.